about the different types of modeling and what each entails. As mentioned, fashion modeling covers both editorial, print modeling, and runway modeling. Most editorial models are usually also runway models, but not all runway models get a lot of print work. So I know it can get confusing because you can be an editorial model and at the same time editorial actually means print. So when you're an editorial model, you're a print model. But being a print model doesn't guarantee that you're a runway model because runway models have to have a specific body type. There are different types of runway jobs a runway model might get. These could include major designer fashion shows, swimsuit shows, trunk shows run by designers for big department stores, and also there's something called showroom models. And showroom models could also be said to be runway models. Now, major designer runway shows take place, as I said earlier, in London, Paris, New York, and Milan. These include world-renowned designers, including Chanel, Dior, Versace, and Chloe, just to name a few. Other cities have designer shows too, and smaller designers show all around the world. Department stores sometimes host shows for their customers that span over a few days or a couple of weeks. These are sometimes referred to as trunk shows, and they often take models from city to city, modeling for the same department store. Another type of runway modeling is called fit modeling or showroom modeling. Showroom and fit models usually work in-house with a designer. They are sometimes referred to as house models, as the designer will get them to try out the new designs and fit them to their body. And the model shows the clothes in a smaller, more intimate setting in the designer's showroom or the sales showroom. There are also different types of showrooms. Some showrooms represent a single designer, while some represent multiple designers. I remember when I was modeling, I worked in a showroom once in London called M&L Harris, and they represented multiple designers, including Mugler, Anna Sui, Tehan, and these were some of the designers I have modeled every day, walking up and down for all the buyers. Buyers from various department stores or individually owned stores come to see the clothes, and they want to buy for the coming seasons. Showroom modeling can become a regular gig, as most designers show twice a year and sometimes come in to buy as well. And clients tend to book the same model season after season. So if you get into a good showroom or you become a showroom model, it could be a way to make regular income. So don't overlook showroom model, because if you can become a showroom model, it's actually good because you can make money regularly, and also you have constant work coming in because you're always working in that showroom. Now, we can talk about showroom modeling or any type of modeling, but something everybody wants to talk about is walking. How do you learn to walk? How do you learn to become a catwalk model? How do you learn to strut your stuff? So let's talk about walking. To be a catwalk model, you have to learn how to walk. I guess you have probably seen models on television strutting their stuff up and down the catwalk. To be honest, it is not as complicated as it may seem. A model's walk down the catwalk consists of walking by putting one leg in front of the other and strutting her stuff. The way models walk down the runway can change depending on which designer's clothes they are showing. Normally, when you do a fashion show, the designer tells you to have attitude and personality when walking down the catwalk. Some designers like models to stroll casually down the catwalk, whilst others want them to strut their stuff. Some shows are on a catwalk podium and others can be walking around a room. The main thing you should remember is that they love to see your character in your walk. It should be a confident walk regardless of the walking style. And when you get to the end of the runway, you got to do a turn. So at the end of the catwalk, you will have to do a turn where you turn around and walk back. There are also many different ways to turn on the catwalk. There is a casual turn, which is similar to strolling. Then there is a three-point turn, just like a car, in which you walk to the front, pose sideways, and swing around. Lots of different types of turns, I guess. How you walk depends on the show. And you know, they give you show notes and you get them before the show starts. You cannot stroll down a catwalk and do a dramatic turn unless it's required. This is why you're giving show notes on how to walk by the designer. Each designer likes a different style of walking, and it often depends on their clothing collection. So let's talk a bit more about turns. Your turn has to be in line with your walk. If your walk is extravagant and moody, perhaps a similar turn will work. Watch some fashion shows and observe different modeling style walks and turns. This could be an interesting way to see the different walking and turning styles. Before the big runway shows start, there is usually a lot of preparation that takes place backstage. It is not all lights and camera and action. Behind the scenes, there are racks of clothes the models will wear. Each frame is labeled with the model's name and sometimes a photo of the model. So you come backstage and there are lots of racks of clothes, and one of those racks will have your name on it with a picture of you, like a Polaroid picture of you, and all the clothes you're going to wear for that show. There are makeup artists, hairdressers, helpers, and sometimes even a few press people backstage. You have to get to the show location a couple of hours before the show starts, you know, so that you can do a rehearsal and get ready. First, you do a walkthrough rehearsal, and then after the rehearsal, you go into hair and makeup. Once finished, you may have to sit around and wait for the show to start. Just before the show starts, you get into your first outfit. The first model walks down the runway, opens the show, and the last model out usually closes the show. I mean, you know, a lot of times the close of the show is usually with the model that's the muse of the designer. So the model that's the inspiration of the designer. So I remember when I was modeling, just closing a show was a big thing, because if you close the show, you were the designer's favorite, basically. Bear in mind, there are other things you should be aware of before walking onto the runway. This includes technical distractions like smoke or mist, you know, because sometimes they use them to create ambience. You should also think about the blinding lights. You also need to remember there will be audience members, and it may be overwhelming when you walk in front of such a large crowd of people. Be prepared and don't lose focus. Runway shows are fun, so try not to get nervous. Instead, just ooze with personality as you sashay down the runway. I can't wait to see you do your thing, Miss Thing. Last but not least, there is a certain etiquette to which you will have to adhere to during the runway show and when prepping. Be careful when posting behind the scenes photos, as some designers do not like it and some models may be in a state of undress. Do not take anything that does not belong to you or ask for free items. If the designer wants to gift things to you, she will let you know. Don't invite friends or relatives backstage without permission. You are free to eat and drink as much as you like, provided it does not get in the way of your work. If you don't feel well or do not feel comfortable in something you are asked to wear, let your agent or the designer know. Because sometimes people don't feel comfortable in what they're wearing because maybe it's see-through and they feel conscious. You should always discuss this with the designer or your agent, and they will obviously try and help you find a solution. Now we've talked about runway shows, let's talk about editorial shooting. Because we were talking about runway and editorial models, so now we're going to go back to editorial shooting. As mentioned earlier, editorial and print models are usually featured in magazines. You may be familiar with some of the more famous models like Bella Hadid, Naomi Campbell, Karlie Kloss, Giselle Bündchen, Miranda Kerr, and the list goes on and on. These are women that you see on high-end fashion shows all the time, or you used to. In this section, we will talk about what it's like to shoot on an editorial magazine shoot. There are lots of things to which you have to pay attention to. Editorial shoots are a team effort, and normally on a shoot, photographers, makeup artists, stylists, hairdressers will be present, and even sometimes you have assistants, lighting people, and even the client may be there as well. Some editorial shoots may also involve more than one model. Editorial shoots can be demanding, but models are usually well taken care of. These shoots will involve you doing different poses or appear in different scenarios on set. So it is best to practice your poses. Be at ease and let the inner you shine through. Editorial shoots are fun, and you're usually able to view the photos on the photographer's monitor as she shoots you. If your shoot is for a magazine, it will usually be released about 2 or 3 months later after the shoot. It is always flattering to know that thousands of other people from around the world will see you in a magazine. And you know what? Doing editorial shoots are fun. And I hope like one day I will see you in a magazine as well. Because I guess that's why you're doing this course, because obviously we want to see you in a magazine. So guys, the next thing I want to talk to you about is about the slate. The slate is something you do when you talk to camera, just like I'm talking now. You say your name, and sometimes you say the name of your agency and your height and measurements. You then do a right turn and a left turn, and you do a 360 turnaround so the client can see how you look on video. Sometimes you're asked to smile or do an action, and then you've done a slate. So earlier on, I talked about the slate. The slate or slating is for on-camera auditions only. You'll be required to state your name and your agent's name that sent you to the audition, and you may also be asked to turn around from side to side so they can see both of your profiles. This goes on tape for the casting director's reference. This process is called slating. Slate tapes are usually sent to the client so they can see what you look like in 3-dimension, real life. Some modeling agencies now use slates so their clients can see what models look like on video. It is a good idea as it lets you show off your personality. A casting is an appointment to meet a client for the first time. Usually when you go to a casting, there are several other models from different agencies present. You'll have to wait your turn. Then you go in to see the casting director or the client. The client typically looks through your portfolio, asks you questions about yourself, and they may occasionally tell you to try on a garment or take a quick snapshot depending on what the casting is for. If the client is casting for a runway show, they may tell you to give them a walk or ask you what other major runway shows you've done. If they are interested in booking you, they will let your agent know. Something else we do in modeling is something called go-sees. Go-sees are similar to castings, but are more like a meet and greet situation in which you go in to see a client, and then they say hello and get to meet you. The main reason for go-sees is they want to see what your personality is. These meetings are good because they help the client get familiar with you and meet you for the first time, especially if you are a new face. Before we go on, I would like to talk about a couple of things. Successful models are usually very busy. Modeling is not an easy job, and there are certain things to which you should always pay attention. We will go through them individually. Some of them are lifestyle choices, while others just have to do with the day-to-day of being a model.